few months ago, I'd sit down in my home theatre and try to start a movie, only to find out that my media server is down. So instead of watching a movie, I'd be back into the office, logging into Proxmox, figuring out which container had died and manually rebooting it. And that completely ruins the illusion of a smart home. So I fixed it, and I fixed it properly. Now when one of my critical services crashes, my automation rate limits itself, checks whether it actually needs to intervene, reboots the correct container or VM, and tracks whether it's successfully recovered. And if it doesn't, I know about it. Today, I'll show you how I built a self-healing system using Uptime Kuma, N8N, Redis, and Proxmox, and also why this is still not high availability. If you enjoy practical engineered home lab builds, hit subscribe, and let's get into it. This is the next step in my home lab rebuild series. In my infrastructure tour last week, I showed you the hardware and services. What I didn't really talk about was what happens when they fail. Because they do fail, and they always fail at the worst possible time. Containers lock up, VMs freeze, VPN clients crash, applications hang. What I've built here is self-healing, not high availability. If my Proxmox node dies, this workflow does nothing. If the hardware fails, this workflow does nothing. If the network fails, this workflow does nothing. This system handles software level service failures, not infrastructure failures. That distinction matters. Here's the logic at a high level. Uptime Kuma monitors my services. If a service status changes, it sends a webhook to N8N. From there, we check if the status is up or down. If it's down, we check rate limiting in Redis. If it's allowed, we identify which servers failed. Then we reboot the correct Lexi or VM in Proxmox. We log that reboot in Redis, and when Uptime Kuma reports it's up again, we calculate recovery time. In each case, I'm notified using Telegram. No polling loops, no infinite reboot storms, no blind restarts, just controlled intervention. The rate limiting step is where most auto reboot tutorials fail. If you don't rate limit, a flapping service will restart over and over. You'll create reboot storms. You'll destroy any chance of diagnosing a root cause, and you'll spam yourself with notifications. I definitely made this mistake when I first implemented this. I woke up one morning to 84 messages telling me I had a server that had been rebooted. So now, before issuing any reboot, I check Redis. Is there already a reboot log for this server in the last 10 minutes? If yes, stop. If no, set a key with a 10-minute expiry and continue. Each server has its own rate limit key. That means if Plex dies and Pi-hole dies at the same time, they're treated independently. That's intentional engineering. Now there's a twist. My media management server runs a VPN inside a VM. That VPN has a kill switch. If the VPN drops, the container can't access the internet. From inside the house, it looks alive, but it's functionally broken. So that service uses a push monitor to Uptime Kuma. The monitor inside the container checks the internet connectivity. If the internet is reachable, it reports healthy. If it misses 3 reports, Uptime Kuma marks it down. But before restarting that VM, I check something important. Is my house internet connection down? If the whole house is offline, restarting the VM achieves nothing. So for that specific server only, N8N checks external internet connectivity before issuing a reboot. That prevents unnecessary restarts when the problem isn't even inside the VM. This is where engineering beats dumb automation. Rebooting something is only half the story. The real question is, did it actually recover? When I issue a reboot, I store a timestamp in Redis. Then I wait for the Uptime Kuma to send an up webhook. If an up event arrives and a recovery key exists, I calculate how long the service was down, and then I send myself a message, recovered in 42 seconds. If the up event never arrives, I know something deeper is wrong, and that's when I can investigate further. That's the difference between guessing and measuring, because now it isn't just an auto reboot, it's measurable reliability. Another improvement I made for my initial setup is instead of having a separate SSH node for every service, I use a switch to identify the target and pass parameters to a single SSH node. That node dynamically runs the command to reboot the correct container or VM. It keeps the workflow clean, scalable, and easy to extend. If I add another service later, I don't duplicate logic, I just add a mapping. This is still not high availability. If Proxmox dies, the storage fails, the switch fails, the host hardware crashes, everything still goes down. Self-healing is not redundancy. This workflow improves reliability at the service layer. High availability improves reliability at the infrastructure layer. These are two different tools, they work well together, but confusing the two is dangerous. I do plan to add high availability later, but this is just step one. A smart home isn't smart if it constantly needs you, but automation without guardrails is worse than manual intervention. My key principles when designing this automation were rate limit destructive actions, treat each service independently, separate infrastructure failure from service failure, track recovery time, design event-driven systems instead of polling whenever possible. And you'll notice something else. There's no AI in this workflow. Not because I'm against it, but because I didn't need it. This problem didn't require prediction. It required clear rules, guardrails, and deterministic logic. Sometimes the most reliable systems aren't intelligent, they're intentional. You don't need a 3-node high availability cluster to improve reliability. Sometimes you just need thoughtful automation. If you want the full workflow, Redis keys, and exact node configuration, I'll put everything in a detailed blog post link below. And if you haven't seen the Home Lab tour yet, check that out next. It'll give you the full infrastructure context behind this system. If you found this useful, give the video a like. It genuinely helps the channel. And if you're interested in building a home lab, self-hosting services, or home automation, subscribe, because we're going to go deeper into reliability, monitoring, infrastructure design throughout this series. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.